Space Cowboy Books presents Simultaneous Times, a science and speculative fiction podcast. Short stories to stir the imagination by contemporary authors.
The Hand, the Face, by Megan Engelhardt, with music by Fall Precautions, read by Jean-Paul Garnier. Russell likes delivering the mail. He likes taking the bills and the catalogs and matching up the addresses and placing them in the right box. It is repetitive, mundane work that gives him time to think. There's so much to think about. Russell turns the white truck onto the street and stops at the first house, 1403 Magnolia Drive. 3 magazines and a bill go into the black box, and he drives on. The next house, 1405, has the flag up. Russell takes the envelope out and replaces it with a bundle of greeting cards. He waves at the little boy who is hovering on the porch. Russell thinks that the cards must be for him and is happy that he can deliver some birthday cheer. 1407 has a package along with the regular mail. Russell gets out of the truck and puts the box on the stairs by the front door. Some drivers complain about packages, but he appreciates the opportunity to stretch his legs. He finishes Magnolia Drive and turns left, starting down Strayford Lane. Stop, deliver, go, house after house. It is a beautiful day, and Russell is happy in his job and in himself. Then he sees a mark. It is a small envelope, plain white with a handwritten address. The black mark is on the bottom right, a small swoop that grows out of the corner and loops back on itself. It could easily be an accident, a stray pen tip, or a stain from being sorted, but Russell knows it is not. He takes the envelope and places it on the seat next to him. He delivers the rest of the mail for the house and moves on to the next address. He does not touch the envelope again until he is done with his route for the day. By then, there are 3 other pieces of mail on the seat. 4 marks in one day. That is unusual, and Russell is pleased. He lingers after the last house, just long enough to sweep the marked mail into his lunch sack. It nestles innocently between the plastic bag that had held his sandwich and the empty bag of pretzels. Russell takes the lunch sack with him when he leaves the post office. It rides on the seat next to him all the way home, where he takes it out of the car and carries it to the shed in the backyard. The shed is not much. It needs paint, and the door hinges are rusty. But appearances don't matter. Russell only cares about what's inside. He opens the door. There is a face on the wall. It is incomplete now, but the eyes are there, and most of the mouth, and a hint of a nose. He thinks the eyes came first so that it could see. He can understand that, but he does wish the mouth would be done soon. It's very odd when the face talks straight into his head. The face is made from mail, black marks on hundreds of envelopes, creating an image as clear as paint on a canvas. No artist did this. No human hand planned the interlocking loops and swirls and shadows and lines. The face is its own. It is making itself. And Russell is just along for the ride. It doesn't bother him now to be the hand of the face. He has a job to do. He takes his work seriously, whether it is delivering the mail or building the face. Russell takes the new envelopes out of the bag and gets out his tools. Glue, staple gun, level. Some pieces are easier to attach than others. Then he sets to work. The first envelope, the one from Strayford Lane, is part of an ear. He places it carefully among the other envelopes, lining it up so that the mark connects 2 other curlicues. He makes sure the lines are perfectly connected. The face says there is no room for error, and staples the envelope in place. Sometimes, as Russell works, he sings to himself. Sometimes he talks to the face, telling it about his day. And sometimes he answers the face. The face has many questions. It wants to know the hows and the whys. It wants to know where and who. Russell always tells it what it wants to know. He never lies to the face. He lied once, when the face was first taking shape on his wall. Just once. And after, Russell was able to get out of bed and clean up the blood. He never lied again. It was better this way, the face said. Better that he had no one to interfere with the construction. And Russell smiled and stapled another envelope to the wall. He smiled all the time now, for he was happy in his job. And deep inside, where even the face's voice could not go, he was happy in himself. And when he could work on the face, he could think. There was so much to think about. The next envelope is a piece of the nose, but the last 2 go on the mouth. Russell stands back and looks at the face. He's pleased with his work. The face is pleased too, and tells him so in the rusty, creaking voice inside his head. Russell sometimes wonders where the face comes from. He wonders why it chose him, and what will happen when it's done. The face says it will come through, but Russell wonders what that means. Will the face become a whole body? Will it stay on the wall, or will it somehow step over? Russell never borrows trouble, though, so he doesn't ask questions. He just wishes the face good night and leaves the shed. He must make his sandwich for tomorrow's lunch before he goes to bed. The door shuts. In the darkness, paper rustles. Envelopes crackle and bend. The face moves, and the mailman smiles. Cave Art by Xauri'EL, with music by Fog Machine, read by Jean-Paul Garnier. Today, the great spiral ramp from the second gallery level broke through into the third, the wall crumbling in a way that was intensely satisfying. I still need to clear away the rubble, which will be a process of many years. But after that, I can finally begin work on the gallery's carvings. I have a plan of fractals and other geometric designs. As I have been moving lower, the reliefs have become more abstract. First realistic scenes of nature and man, then the scientific ideograms of the final language. If there is to be another gallery, I must create it myself. There is no pre-existing room that deep, and it would be a delicate matter to make one without collapsing the whole structure. In addition, I'm having trouble of thinking of something yet more abstract to put there. Hopefully, there will no longer be any need to continue by the time I'm finished with the current stage. Carving a cave using the natural erosion of flowing water requires immense patience. But in my time as the guardian of this forsaken place, patience has been the first and most important thing I had to learn. When the human race transitioned into its final form, a pattern of energy seeking realms beyond the known universe, and left this planet behind, the biggest problem they faced was what to do about the many places where previous generations had stored nuclear waste from atomic fission. The sites had all been surrounded by monuments, carefully designed to convince any interlopers not to dig the chambers up. But the last humans believed that this would not be enough. And they were right. In the hundreds of thousands of years since the human world was left to go to ruin and grow wild, the young races have tried time and again to breach the mausoleums of civilization. Some are always so curious to know what is buried there that no possible warning could dissuade them. So it was decided that a few thousand volunteers would be sacrificed to save the planet's future. A tiny black hole which burned for a bare instant hotter than a million stars was used to warp space-time around me so violently that my future connected directly to my past. I live out the same moment over and over, my world line spiraling infinitely into the future. I no longer age, no longer need to eat or sleep. My life will last beyond even the far horizon when the radioactive horror I guard finally becomes quiescent. Theoretically, I could last to the end of the universe, and maybe even beyond. Of course, the cost is that I may never move from this one spot, but that too was necessary, that I might never abandon my post, that I wouldn't even have the option. 3 young races have evolved since humanity left. They change faster with every generation. The pollution and radioactive fallout that the old civilizations bequeathed to the world have affected evolution itself. The first were descended from elephants, still much like the ones I knew as a child, but with smaller bodies and larger brain-to-body ratios. They were a phlegmatic race who lived at peace and in harmony with nature. Rare were the adventurers who tried to breach the nuclear tombs, the perfect challenge on which to test and refine my newfound powers. Some of them live still in the highest mountain valleys, and I hope they continue to do so indefinitely. The second were a species of hyper-intelligent cephalopods that came out of the water and colonized the land. The last humans did not believe any young race could be a true technological civilization. All the easy sources of energy, the fossil fuels and radioactive ores, had been used up by the ancients. Surely without those things, they could never bootstrap industrialization. But the cephalopods did amazing things with just the power of water and wind. They took the nuclear tombs as a challenge, a puzzle to be solved. But eventually, over many generations, they just dismantled their civilization and went back to the sea. Perhaps they saw the futility of continuing to invent and build in a world whose natural resources had been sucked dry. The third was a kind of eusocial worm, and they have been the most aggressive in trying to invade the site, sending larger and larger armies of semi-intelligent drones to be slaughtered while the hive brains stay back to observe, to devise and test new strategies. But they won't last. They insatiably consume every resource around them, and when they run out of resources, they go to war and consume each other. And when they can find no more enemies, they cannibalistically consume themselves. One day, there will be nothing left for them, and I will finally be free of this headache, free to concentrate on carving my cave. The extreme curvature of space-time in my vicinity gives me access to the ultimate power, the inexhaustible resource of vacuum energy. Within the confines of the monument area, my power is vast, close to that of a god. But the power drops off proportionately to the square of the distance. In the wasteland beyond the site's boundaries, I am only able to stir up storms and cast illusions, and befuddle the minds of those who seek the tomb. I use these methods whenever possible to turn the seekers away. I would rather not have to kill those who make it to the monument itself and are in a position to start excavating. It is a necessary evil. If they dug up what must stay buried, the consequences for them and the entire biosphere would be disastrous. But I still have enough of my old mortality left that it pains me. I was put here to preserve life, not to destroy it. Further still, in the thousands of miles away, the power diminishes to the point where I can barely guide the movement of a drop of water. But water alone can move mountains. Those who buried the waste took the local geological features well into account, sank it into salts and clay that would never weather away. But there is a limestone formation within a close enough distance that I still have a little bit of influence. Just enough that, over hundreds of thousands of years, I have been able to manipulate the natural processes that formed the cave system that penetrates the karst. Slowly, achingly slowly, I have carved it into a monument to the world that was left behind. I have smoothed and regularized the walls of the room, then carved out the reliefs that now decorate those walls. I have constructed grand hallways that ease passage into and between the various galleries. I have drained away the underground rivers to leave every part of the cave system easily accessible and convenient. At first I carved only for myself, but the young races have also appreciated my painstaking work. The elephant creatures treated the cave as a temple, a holy space beyond understanding. To the cephalopods it was a tourist site, and a mystery of the old world that scientists tried to unravel for centuries. The worms have so far largely ignored it. Theirs is not a culture that values beauty and art. When they are gone, maybe there will no longer be any left to appreciate it but me. Or maybe a new young race will come and find their own meaning in its decorated halls. There is a quantum Ansible network that connects me to all of the other sites around the globe. All of the other martyrs sealed in their own space-time bubbles. The saviors of this benighted Earth. For the first few 100,000 years, there was much traffic between us, much discussion and discourse, fractious arguments and abstruse dialogues amongst those who can no longer interact any other way. But over the millennia, all of them have grown silent. Or perhaps it is I that have grown silent. My obsession with my cave leaves little room for anything else. Perhaps the rest gossip and chatter still. None of the other sites have been breached, so surely they still attend to their duties. Perhaps they have only decided that it is no longer worth contacting me, that I will never answer. The time is approaching when the waste will no longer be dangerous, when my duty to protect it will be done. And at some point, the cave must be finished as well, I suppose. In the time when I am neither carving it nor fending off attack, I have been researching a way to break from my prison, to finally put down this mantle and rest. Maybe then I can leave a positive legacy of a planet saved and of a final piece of human art that will last for many ages. And if not, I can always try sculpting the cliff face with the wind. In this episode of Simultaneous Times, you heard The Hand, the Face by Megan Engelhardt, with music by Fall Precautions. And Cave Art by Xauri'EL Zwan, with music by Fog Machine. Theme music by Dane Luscombe. Come visit us at our bookstore in Joshua Tree or online at spacecowboybooks.com. Don't forget to subscribe and visit us on Instagram and Twitter. We'd love to know what you think of the show.